So we're out here for a little midweek adventure. I just wanted to take a stab at this, so figured a little time after work, might as well try it. So I've got this cap and bung, just weld bung. A guy I work with was using them to make water tanks, and they worked really well. So he had given me an extra one, and I've had it sitting around for a while. The other day, I looked at this timing cover with the oil cap on it, and I thought, man, that is ugly. And I've got a billet aluminum cap that would look way better on there. So we're gonna cut this timing cover up with a bandsaw and see if we can't weld that aluminum bung on there. So with any luck, if you know cast aluminum at all, it's a bit of a nightmare, especially if it's been soaked in oil its whole life. We'll see what happens. So on that note, let's cue up some music, start a time lapse. All right, that's the timing cover off. Now let's see if we can get this thing cut and have it look decent. I think I'm just going to match the factory angle. So basically we'll just bring this down and make our cut line. All right, we're cut. So let's grab our cap. All right, let's get our cap. Valve cover's cut. We are going to weld that just like that. I think that is going to be 10 times better. So let's just compare this piece off the saw. This is our factory oil cap. Old, not stylish. New, full of science and technology. All right, let's clean this up and see how it welds. All right. I'm going to get the old Milwaukee out. These are like miniature flat discs. Super sick. Take a lot of material down really quick. So let's get rid of our saw marks to the best of our ability. Cool. Now that we're done with that, switch over to, it depends on what you call these, a buffing wheel, surface conditioning pad. I call them Scotch-Brite discs because they're like Scotch-Brite material, but what this does is we've taken away our saw marks, now we've got sanding marks, and so we'll just clean that up. with this. Cool. So we go from a nasty rough cut. I don't even know how well that'll show up on camera, but it's gross in real life. You can take my word for it. To nice and shiny, smooth, and hopefully good for welding. So one last thing while everything's over here and nice and dirty still. If I can figure out where I put it, we're going to take a deburt knife and just clean up the sharp edges. So we'll go in here, and if you've never used one of these, they are awesome. This little end does the whoop-de-woo. So what you do is you take it in your especially round cut items, and you can basically manually cut a chamfer. Works really well, especially in situations like this, or if you're cutting tubing, if you're gonna make something. But okay, that is this. Our cap goes on there perfect. I don't think we could have asked for anything better. So let's move this party over to the fixture table and get this thing set up to weld. All right. We are going to set this up on a fixture table. Not really sure that the fixture aspect of this table is really going to help us here. But I got to figure out a way to set this up just long enough to tack this cap in place. And then we'll move it around and do what we need to once this is tacked. But for now, we're going to need to figure out a way to hold this in place. And that might be a clamp. Not really sure yet. So let's fast forward to the part where I figure it out. All right. Okay, so we got the old girl clamped in place. That looks pretty good. We're gonna have to do something about the timing cover being kind of ugly and dirty. Maybe we'll get it polished or something. But as far as the position of that cap, I'm pretty stoked on it. So I think I'm ready to give it its first tack. Something I always forget that is super important, just to be safe, because you never know how it's going to weld. Always start on the back. Start where people can't see it. Never know what's going to happen. Maybe your argon tank is empty and you didn't realize it, or any number of things. Maybe you've got a contaminated tungsten. There's plenty of ways to skin that cat. So I run a different torch for steel, titanium, and then one entirely separate torch. So I have one torch that I use for steel and titanium, I should say. And then I've got one separate torch that is 100% AC only. So anytime I do aluminum, I just come over and grab this torch. It's super handy to not have to swap tungsten, not have to swap consumables. I've got the cup and everything that I want on here. Looks like I've already got some filler rod over here. So we're gonna double check our settings. We're at 100 amps. So this is pretty thick. I'm gonna say we're like 1/8 of an inch at least on most of it. So we'll give ourselves a little more than we need. Hopefully we can get this tacked nice and quick and not melt my woodworking clamp I got there. Another tip, maybe this is a me problem, but I tend to do tacks with no gloves on, and then sometimes I'll just start welding with no gloves. And then I go home and I smell like burnt hair. Get some argon flow. Okay, so far nothing gross. All right, it's gonna burn off some pretty nasty stuff while we're trying to weld this. Not exceedingly stoked on that. Honestly, it's not nearly as bad as it could be. For what we're working with here, that's actually welding up really pretty nice. So, all right. Now we can weld this thing up. See what kind of trouble we can get into. Blocks like this are really nice to have around, just for situations like this where you need a little bit of height. Just enough to get it up somewhere more comfortable like that. What happens? All right, so the camera died while we were welding. Kind of a bummer, but more importantly, we're all wrapped up. I mean, obviously, it is not bright and shiny Instagram welds, but for an oil-soaked timing cover, I'm beyond happy with that. So, cool. Let's see what it looks like on the car. Okay, already way more stoked on that than the original oil cap. Lid. Okay. That looks 10 times better. Everything about that is much nicer. that's it. Next project.